Labrīt, cienījamās dāmas un godājamie kungi. Good morning, dear ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the annual meeting of the International Scientific Committee of Historic Cities, Towns and Villages of ICOMOS, and to the third conference of the Subcommittee for the Central and Eastern Europe. And we are very happy and glad to welcome you in the most beautiful and charming town of Latvia. And I do apologize for the rest of you, but we locals think that it's the most charming and beautiful town in the whole world. So welcome to Kuldīga. And before I give a floor to the opening speeches, a technical issue. The translation is provided into Latvian and English. Devices for translation are over there at the end. So if somebody in any case situation needs something for that, please approach the back of the entrance of this hall. And so, please welcome Rimants Safonovs, the Executive Director of Kuldīga District Council.
Sound? There is sound? Yes. Good morning. You're so many. I just was standing behind. I just saw the half of the room, and then there's so many people. Yes, my name is Rimants, and what I want to say, there's so many people upstairs as well. Nice. On behalf of our municipality, I want to just welcome you to our town, our magical town, which is, we know it's very small, but it's very cute, and it's very, I can say, because I'm from Kuldīga originally, and I can say that this is the best place where to live, to enjoy, discover, and save the things for next generations. We are very happy that you are here, and that there will be discussions about a very important theme, which is how to, the right word, save or how to keep everything running, because we see how planet is changing, how things are moving very fast, and as it was, for example, for me 30 years ago, now the time moves much faster. And one thing is that we are, like humans, moving faster, technology is moving faster, we want to discover things much faster. That's one thing. Another thing, every day, challenges we have and dealing. And another thing is planet is changing, the weather is changing, and our historical places, we need to think like twice or even more how to save these more very important things for next generations. But another thing which keeps us not to fall asleep is what's going on around. I mean, war, terrible things which happen around us. Most important, that's people get involved in these things, and why we are here, the historical places get involved as well, and those can easily, we know how hard it is, I mean, not hard, but a long time ago someone built them. It takes very hard job to keep it for next generations, we know that. Around the world we see so many places, amazing places, and thanks only for people who saw them as some precious or historical has historical meaning, because so many great people in the world were saying that you can build future if you know your past, and it's much easier to understand where we are now, where we are going in the future, and these are the things which it's important to think about. If we're talking about Kuldīgas town, I understand you arrived yesterday, most of you. Some of you, do you have chance to walk around to see what we have here? Not yet. Okay, I will finish my speech and then we will go. No, we have a long day to do the conversations. But yes, we are how we're saying in Kuldīgas town, time stops. When you are here, time stops. One thing is because of historical places. You can see just some past, but another thing that there is no underground running metros. There is no like busy people walking around. We are busy, but it's not like in big cities, and that's why it feels like stops. Another thing is that nature is so close to us that just one step and you cross the river and there is a nature. You just go and walk in the woods and things like that, and that's the magical. For Kuldīga, yes, few years ago, we've been described in UNESCO. We are part of it. We understand it's not just to receive some piece of paper and that's it, job done. Let's go home and keep enjoying the life. No, it's just the beginning, but beginning started basically 30 years ago. If we go back to Soviet times, if you know a bit of history, Latvia have been like a part of Soviet Union, yes, and an idea in those times who was in charge in municipality, idea was to remove everything. Like this, no, let's clean it and let's put the Soviet time buildings because it's all about the power, people, and things like that, like boxes, you know. But somehow, I don't know, it wasn't priority and things like that, and we survived. And I want to say that Kuldīga is luckiest town or place in Latvia who survived. One thing is Second World War, because there's so many places or cities or towns has been destroyed completely. Maybe there's one building or half building, not even houses, even another historical places. But in that times that Kuldīga survived. And the second time, the hardest time is from end of the war till 90s. To keep it, when you're gonna walk in the city, you will see there is some Soviet time someone was trying to move something in old town, some new buildings, and those times new buildings, but there are not so many. And the best thing probably is that somehow in 30 years ago there was people in municipality who was in power, and they decided to go direction like UNESCO way. This should be like everyday's task to keep it town as it was, try to save it, organizing restoration. The hardest part probably is still is to explain people why we need this, because that I know that we need it, or my colleagues know that, but we are like a small team, like 10 people, 20 people. Okay, in municipality we are more, you know. But still, it's first of all, it's we need to work on the mindset. I mean, because how it was like Soviet times. If this is if it belongs to me, that means it belongs to everyone. You know, and if it belongs to everyone, that means that government should take care of it. But we know that these houses belongs to private owners. We know some houses belongs to municipality. Now, everyone needs to take responsibility of their actions, how they preserve those buildings, what they're planning to, how they're planning to build them and restore them. And that's probably the mindset and the way how to change it, that this is important, not only for now, because of course, if I start to somehow to build it back as it was, you know that it's very costly to restore something. It takes time, it takes money, and it's difficult. But we can see now when the new owners of those buildings coming in, some of them are straight away, they know what will be the challenges, and they want this one because they can see there's some attachment to it. You know, there's a history, there's some heart in it, and it's important that because you're not buying just a house or land which is under the house. You're buying history. You're buying stories where people been involved in all this. And we are still in the beginning, but what I wanted to say that these 30 years has been very dedicated to go one direction. Try to help people to, for example, we have this restoration center to help to restore windows and doors. So we opened some programs in municipality to help them. We're exchanging knowledge with different cities across the Baltic states and abroad as well. We have good relationships with Norway about restoration, and we can see now after these years there's so many people coming from different countries and they want to learn how we've been dealing with this. And if we are looking on these 30 years, what is 30 years? I say 30 years is nothing, and it's a lot for humans, but it's nothing for historical sites and places. That's why what I want to say, that we are in the beginning, we're working hard, we are working with the people who live here, people who will come here, and that's where we are. And for us it's important, this Kuldīgas town is like part of our DNA. You know, when we are waking up, we're going to sleep. This is our place where we have dreams, where we are creating things and start new things and finish on other things. Yeah, small introduction. Long, you know, I understand I can speak non-stop, maybe later, but what I want to say that thank you there for coming. For us it's important. You're gonna speak a lot about this. One of the most important things, how to save historical places in situations when it's not so good around us. And thank you for coming to Latvia, to Kuldīga. Thank you very much. And enjoy staying here in Kuldīga and seeing other places around Latvia. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Stefanos. So I guess you already had the best keynote speaker for our conference today. Rimans, please stay here in the front. Please don't run away from us. As you understood, you already got a volunteer for the sightseeing around Kuldīgas, so please remind him later. And but we will get serious again, and I will give the floor to the head of the Latvian National Heritage Board and ICOMOS Latvija, Ināra Bula.
Dear ladies and gentlemen, I'm honored, really honored to greet all of you here in Kuldīga. Because of such important UNESCO new city place we have in Latvia. As already mentioned, today I'm honored to represent two heritage protection institutions, a National Heritage Board of Latvia and ICOMOS Latvia National Committee. My gratitude also to Kuldīgas municipality for warm welcoming us here, and to all my ICOMOS colleagues for professional efforts managing all activities in this conference. As already Mr. Stefanos mentioned today, nowadays heritage protection faces with several dangerous challenges. First of all, I should mention the lack of common legislation framework for historic urban environmental protection at the European Union level. Threats caused by climate change and, of course, geopolitical crisis. An important aspect is the disappearance also of historical art and craft skills and the possibilities for their transmission. Today, we all are meeting in the region that relatively recently, almost 100 years ago, experienced two wars. The Second World War brought with the threat of material and intangible cultural destruction. However, the period of occupation and cultural prohibition fostered solidarity with the community in recognizing cultural common values. After the touch of destruction, we are once again threatened by the loss of freedom and cultural heritage right now. We live in a time when the peace is a relative concept, which changes the common emphasis on the protection of our monuments. Our understanding needs to be changed, and I think more public involvement in policy planning process required, and that we should this direction change from the bottom to the top, not otherwise. As far as possible, more knowledge transfer and more youth involvement. As Mr. Sofonos already said, we are trying to get everything faster and faster, so maybe we should a little bit slow down and breathe in our life and our heritage, not only today, but in rest of our lives. And I wish you very fruitful day and very fruitful and outcoming discussions. Thank you.
Thank you for your very kind words, Mrs. Bula. And now the floor is given to the President of the International Scientific Committee of Historic Cities, Towns and Villages, Paula Cordeiro.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues and distinguished participants, it's a great pleasure for me to welcome you to the CIVVIH annual meeting here in Kuldīga, this beautiful town. On behalf of CIVVIH, I extend our earthly gratitude to our hosts, the municipality of Kuldīga, the ICOMOS Latvia, and of course the CIVVIH colleagues from Latvia who worked for their dedication, effort, and warm hospitality in making this event possible in such an exceptional setting. We are delighted to gather in the city renowned for its outstanding wood architecture and unique urban fabrics, an ideal backdrop for our discussion on living heritage and resilience. This year's conference focused on the pressing and increasing urgent theme, as already Mrs. Safonovos and Madam Bula mentioned, the impact of global climate change on cultural heritage and the environment. In the line with ICOMOS Triennial Scientific Plan 2024-2027, Disaster and Conflict Resilience Heritage, Preparedness, Response and Recovery, CIVVIH is reflecting on the series of critical questions. How can ICOMOS members and committees better prepare for disasters? What role can we play collectively, and what resources will we require to further improve our effectiveness? How can we assist site managers, communities, and everyday custodians of heritage, the residents in this attempt? And importantly, what practical steps should be taken to protect cultural heritage from unforeseen disasters, particularly at local level? Our discussions the next days will explore how historical urban landscapes and buildings can respond with resilience, adaptability, and innovation. Our overarching theme, Living Heritage, invites us to delve into several key topics, including reviving traditional craftsmanship in wooden heritage, enhancing resilience through local strategies, managing risks and disasters, balancing development with preservation. We aim to foster a vibrant exchange of ideas, best practice, and collaboration solutions to help navigate these complex challenges. And we begin to open this conference to encourage everyone to engage openly, share your insignias, and learn from one another's experience. CIVVIH is committed to fostering creativity and constructive dialogue on building disaster and conflict resilience approaches in heritage management. We look forward to your valuable contributions. Once again, I would like to thank to our hosts, the municipality of Kuldīga, the organizers, ICOMOS Latvija, and our colleagues from Latvia. And last but not least, thank you to the Central and Eastern Europe Subcommittee, Danuta, for the collaboration in organizing this scientific symposium. I look forward to fruitful discussions ahead and to work together towards a resilient and sustainable future for our historical cities and towns. Thank you. We organized a scientific symposium in Brussels in 2022, and this is the publication of our committee. And thank you very much for your hospitality. And also for...
Thank you for such a beautiful start and beautiful morning. And now we will start our morning session. And I would like to announce the first speaker. The topic is Development of Latvia's Historic Cities. And the speaker is Artūrs Lapiņš. He's a restoration architect, CEO of company Architectural Investigation Group, and president of the Latvian Association of Architects.
Dear colleagues, dear friends of historic cities and historic sites, I'm very pleased to be the opening speaker of this conference. And Jan asked me to make some introduction from Latvian side, also introduce to what might be subject of interest from Latvian colleagues. And the topic of my presentation will be historic cities of Latvia. It's so that if we are talking about disasters, which is main subject of this conference, is that disasters happen not only nowadays, they happen also in the history. And as Bernard Shaw has put it, the main thing which we can learn from history is that people don't learn from history. But hopefully there are some things which we can learn from cities, from how they have developed, how they have raised or fallen during quite a long period of time. And insight will be on short insight on the development of Latvia cities over past 1,000 years. So Latvia's historic cities, imagining expansion, rise and fall. Historic cities in Latvia, we have approximately 54 of them, cities which have been established and which have gained city rights before the Second World War. And from those 54 cities, 11 date back to Livonian period, where Livonia was also Estonia and Latvia, but in the Livonian period, so here are cities, and those who are from Latvia know that there are places which still exist as cities, and places which can still be called cities, and also there are ones which have not survived for one or another reason. And I will try in this presentation to somehow sketch why this has happened in this history. Beginning with not quite cities, but city-like settlements. So early settlements, one which is quite known is it's reconstructed but based on the archaeological research, is Āraiši Lake Castle or Āraiši Lake Settlement in Vidzeme, and it's unique in sense that it's a place where local tribes, when the tribe has local Latgalian tribes have settled on an enclosed island, so they had to somehow create for themselves a settlement which is suitable for living and also protecting from different disasters. And so what they did basically the same as did Venetians on quite just smaller scale. So they settled there, they made reinforcements, they made wooden walls around the place, they built wooden houses from available materials which are from nearby forests. And so they made round structure. So it's the first layer which dates back to 9th century. So they are living buildings, and from each building you can see that every family or every man who lives there can access the protection area which is all around this. So they can defend against intruders. And there's one entrance gate and also palisades which protect from the enemies. And there are archaeologists have discovered 5 layers of settlements there. They have been demolished, they have been burned, and the new settlements have been made on top of that. Basically, the change which has happened has been in the center of this settlement. So originally, as you see, 3 separate houses, they have been substituted by one larger house. It means that something has changed also in the idea how this settlement was run. So they needed some bigger hall or bigger place where to gather, and besides just small living places, so they also had a kind of hall or so in the middle. The same, if you look at the first settlements of the Germans here in Latvia, we can see Martinsala or Kirchholm, which is on River Daugava, which is one of the main waterways, and so the main places where movement happened, trade and movement of people happened. So it's River Daugava here, and it's currently the place which is under the water, so you don't see it, but Martinsala is here, a small island. It's a bigger part of that. And in illustrations, you see main buildings which were built there. So there was a castle which was defended from the land. There was a church with burial ground around it. So there was a cemetery, and there was a place for settlement, a place for the village next to the castle. Basically, that's a pattern which we can follow down in all those settlements, all those early settlements which are here in Latvia. That was a complete set which was needed for life, also for protection. The same we can see in Riga. So we know the Dome Church, the Riga Cathedral. Those who will come foreign guests to Riga will be able to see, of course, that. But prior to Dome Church, Dome Cathedral, there were previous settlements being there. And so what we know is in July 05, 12, 11, We know that the Dome Church was founded some place here, which was the beginning of the Dome Church. But prior to that, archaeologists in this lower part of Dome Square, they discovered the street, and they discovered two types of dwellings which existed prior to Dome Church, and also the cemetery which we can see approximately here. Yeah, it's very dark, but approximately this area, and the church was built actually on top of the cemetery. And according to building types which were discovered, there were local buildings which were made of wood, and there were half-timbered buildings or Fachwerkhäuser, which were built by Germans, which came to Latvia. So at least we know that there was one street there next to this cathedral. Riga developed gradually. It was not just one building period. So the center, which was here, was 1201. So it's central part. Then it expanded towards in this direction. It's southeast toward Daugava. And this new city, which was here right now, is St. Jacob's Church. It was the last of this original city development in the 17th century. And as I already mentioned, so Dome Church was built here as part of this expansion. And Riga Castle, which was further expansion, so it was when the original castle, which was here, it moved. Also, other castle was built next to the city walls, outside of the previous walls. Why was city? So we have the central part, but the city was not homogeneous. Also in this historic planning as well, and basically it was divided by different confessions, which were in Riga, as we can see from this list. So there were Archbishop Castle, which was down here. There was church for citizens. There were different Cistercian cloisters, Jacob Church, also for this new city. So it was not equal. There were different communities of people living in the city. And that was the reason why the city has such a complex plan. So actually, each this confession and each center, they created their own pattern, and this pattern interlapped. So that's how pattern of or street grid of modern, I would say modern Riga historic core has been created. And we can still see remains from this core, from this original pattern in the central part of Riga. So if you look at here, so we have one main street, which is here. We have two round streets around, and that's the reason why, for example, St. Peter's Church is turned into this way. So it's remaining from this original pattern. And you can see it also this convent's hof or convent yard, which still is there, and this building, this pattern has survived through the time. And the same we can see in outer part of old Riga, of old city. So this street grid, which dates back to 1760s already. So when the city expanded, it still remains. You can still recognize this pattern today. And it has been designed and created in such a way that it has survived through the times. So one of the lessons which we can see from, we can learn from history is that the city needs to adapt. And the same we see today. So here is historic center of Riga. Here is this buffer zone, but those all city patterns which have been laid at different periods. So it's also not one period. It also has expanded over almost 100 years. This modern buffer zone. It also has developed through the time, and this, those grids of separate clusters of separate parts have overlapped with each other, and that makes this city so complex. Gradual growth we can see also in other cities. So it's Tukums example. Here are 4 slides like how it began. So we have one road here. We have Odras Castle at this place. We have town square, so square for trade. And basically we have road from Riga to Ventspils, whole road. And that's the main features of city as such. So we have church, we have castle, and town hall and town square. So it's substantial features of any medieval city. And also we have road, we have movement which is through the city. And as those roads evolved and Kuldīga appeared on the map, so this road, new road, in the middle 16th, appeared in the middle 16th century, changing patterns of city. We see how further on in the second half of the 19th century, those building blocks expanded. So if originally the development and buildings were just along the streets, and it was filled up with buildings in the middle of the quarters. And the very light building is modern plan versus historic part of Tukums. We can see how this pattern has been preserved even until nowadays, but it has evolved over time. So we can somehow step back in time and see how why it is like that. The same is for Kuldīga. There are also nice schemes from Kuldīga. Book, there is castle, so the central part, we have this protection area, so there was a moat around the castle, and how it gradually developed, and now we see Kuldīga as it is today. The same for Limbaži, or Lemsdal in German, so refilled core. So city, one thing, the city can expand. Another thing, if city is enclosed by the walls, it has to grow in the middle, inside those walls. And if we superimpose current plan of Limbaži with a plan from 1663, we can see that basically we can recognize also those historic parts of the city. So here is a castle, the church, the city wall, the place for former Riga gate and Thesis gate, and here's the street which follows the wall, so this protection pattern, and also the walls still don't exist in Limbaži. The city wall, it has been demolished. The pattern is still there, so we can see how city has filled up the available space. And it's, also today, the city blocks, they still follow the same pattern. So we see how this original pattern has been successful enough to be adapted to needs with time. The same for Thesis. So again, the castle, the church, castle, the church, and the natural plateau, which is flat, and it's a logical place for village to develop. And again, here is the city wall, which nothing remains today, but still the pattern we can still recognize. And there is Riga gate on the lower part, and it has been discovered in archaeological. We have also archaeological evidence for that. And that's the way how cities have developed. Here's a superimposed plan. So the castle, the first, second bailey, and a city wall with former city gates along the wall. Cities which have not survived so much until today. So it's one is Koknese, which was a very important bishop city in the 13th, 14th, 15th centuries, and we can see it's triangular peninsula between River Daugava and River Perse, and on this triangular peninsula there was central core of the castle, first bailey and second bailey, and we can here recognize that it's settlement. you can see buildings drawn in this 18th, 17th century drawing, and how it looks today. So here is the castle is still there, but the city, as you see, there's a large forest growing in the place of former city, and the center of the city has shifted. So, and the reason for that is the Northern War, during which quite a lot of Livonian towns were damaged to the extent, and after the war coming a great plague, which simply made, so there was a gap of like 2 or 3 generations which could not restore anything in the cities. So the new city was made on other part of current road and a bit further away from river. Another city which has shifted historic center is Ventspils. So in the beginning of 20th century, colleague Schmidt, who was exploring Ventspils, so here is castle, here is Venta River, and here is the current historic center of Ventspils. And he thought, and this plan is published in quite a lot of historic literature, that historic center of Ventspils has been somehow remote from the castle. So that castle has been here, and here has been nothing, and here has been historic center. And archaeological evidence shows that there has been historic city in Ventspils before, let's say, modern historic city. So that here's a castle, and evidence shows that all the oldest parts, oldest archaeological evidence is close to the city, as it logically had to be. And the reason for that, you can see on the image, which is right there, it's dunes. So and there is, it's mentioned in historical documents that the dunes have overflown the city. So it was simply filled up with sand, and so the new city was made in location where it is right now, so in the 17th century. Refilled core and remains of historic protection patterns we can see also in Valmiera. So we have the 17th century plan, where you can where city walls are around, and there is grid which is shown in which existed prior to the Second World War, where city was once again demolished. But archaeological evidence shows that prior to Livonian War, there was again another city inside the walls with completely different pattern. So we see that the walls are the same here and here, but the buildings which are here are quite different pattern with this kind of with bent streets and oriented completely differently as in this grid plan. And archaeological evidence has shown those buildings which have been there mostly for craftsmen, and all this disappeared during the Livonian War. So when the city was bombed, and again the same story is that there was plague after that, and there was economical downfall. And the new city, which was developed in the 17th century, was made rectangular. It was possible to make it rectangular, to make a new grid. And so a new city appeared within all the borders, all the city walls. So that's how Valmiera looks today. During the Second World War, it was also bombed, so another layer is on top of that. So the cities, the place is the same, but the buildings and the pattern of the city is completely different. So one thing which impacts how cities look today is this pattern, as this continuous living in one place. And another magnet, or another magnet is transportation. And as I mentioned, in the case of Koknese, transportation was river, so waterways, and with coming of railway, quite a lot of cities changed and shifted towards the railway. And one of such cities is Gulbene. So as you see from this map of modern historic monuments, so there's quite a lot of concentration is here. It's where Gulbene was originally, and there is White Palace and Red Palace still surviving, but here's this concentration. And as soon as railway appeared, there appeared another city, another part, which was planned. So it was It was colony for railway workers. It was planned as keeping in mind the idea of the garden city, and so it still survives there. But we can see how railway can impact the city's development. So and around this railway there is colony and depot, and it's quite a different story and quite different city. The same is for Rezekne. So Rezekne is in Latgale, another town which originally had one street here. So it was main street, horizontal, which was main trading street, as you see from this picture, with small chapel on the end of the street, as a church on the highest part. So it was oriented horizontally towards river, Rezekne River. And the city was bombed during Second World War, quite heavily, originally by German armies, then by Soviet army, and the city expanded. So, again, the same story. So here is this Latgale Street, or historic street in the center. Here is the river, which is here, and here is the railway station. And the city expanded extensionally here along this road. So it got completely new access. So the city was turned like 90 degrees, and nowadays it's the main part of Rezekne. So I think I have come to some conclusion and also some end of my time. So if we sum this all up, so we have early settlements where main issues were the safety. So there were fortified walls and gates, and both places were made enclosed, either rectangular or round, so to make this protection as much effective as possible. And they were basically placed to the places, put on the places where there were some transportation arteries. And it has also been the reason why several cities have disappeared, and like Rauna, which became much smaller and much more important as they were in Middle Ages. So gradual expansion. So what happened mostly in the second half of 19th century was expansion towards railway nodes, or new transportation nodes. And as we saw in Riga, it's rectangular or radial pattern going from the center or from this old historic core. And extensive development, so it means that if there's some reason and a possibility to change grid, our ancestors didn't hesitate to change this grid. And, let's say after some disasters or some war, if the city core could be leveled up and new grid made, they did it, and that's how city adapted. And shifted core, so in some places core was placed next to the city, next to the old part, and that's how cities survived. So the main point is adaptation. If cities can adapt to disasters or changing times, then they will survive. Thank you very much.
Thank you for such extensive description of the development of Latvian cities and towns. But now we would like to invite to give us a speech about Kuldīga. Kuldīga, UNESCO World Heritage List, the history of the town's development and its outstanding universal values. And the speaker is Jana Jakobsone. She is the head of the construction department of Kuldīga District Council.
Dear colleagues, I'm so happy to welcome you here, CIVVIH colleagues, ICOMOS Latvija colleagues, Latvian professionals, students, Kuldīga colleagues, of course. So I am very happy and honored to present you Kuldīga's story, how and why Kuldīga became a World Heritage Site. So, little bit, few words about Kuldīga region. Now we are in Kuldīga town and in Kuldīga county. Kuldīga was founded as a town in 1242. Town area, we have 13.2 square kilometers, and population in Kuldīga approximately 10,000 inhabitants. And Kuldīga county, founded in 2021, and population approximately 9,000 inhabitants. If you speak about nature and cultural heritage in the county, of course, we have wide heritage diversity. We have Natura 2000 areas, cultural monuments, urban planning, architecture, art, history, archaeology. We have forests and countrysides, rivers, lakes, ponds, historic urban landscapes, and intangible cultural heritage, for example, Suiti cultural space inscribed in the UNESCO intangible list. So yes, Kuldīga is inscribed into the UNESCO World Heritage List 2 years ago, and now we celebrate together with you 2nd anniversary. And also the Heritage Month. Every year we have Heritage Month when we celebrate this very nice, we say, quality sign with many, many events. And about UNESCO World Heritage List inscription, we are inscribed under criterion number 5. The property area, we have 84.33 hectares. The buffer zone, 88.85 hectares. And we have 4 attribute groups. I will explain you later. And in the map, you can see, I will find the pointer. Okay, in the map with the red line, you can see of course, the property, and with the blue line, the buffer zone of the property. If somebody asks in the few sentences to explain the outstanding universal value of Kuldīga, then I always say like this. Located in the western part of Latvia, the town of Kuldīga is an exceptionally well-preserved example of a traditional urban settlement, which developed from a small medieval hamlet into an important administrative center of the Duchy of Kurland and Semigalia between the 16th and 18th centuries. The town structure of Kuldīga has largely retained the street layout of that period and includes traditional log architecture as well as foreign-influenced styles that illustrate the rich exchange between local and traveling craft people from around the Baltic Sea. And today I would like to explain the historical development of this place. The OUV of the property focuses on Kuldīga as an example of the traditional Baltic settlement and its development from the 13th until the early 20th century. In nomination this year, we were focused on the period of Duchy and Kurland and Semigalia, but ICOMOS experts advised, and we are inscribed in the wider, not only time framework, but also the wider area. And some of the central developments include 13th and 15th century medieval hamlet of vernacular architecture from local materials, 16th till 18th century administrative center of the Duchy of Kurland Semigalia, introducing new building techniques and materials, 19th till 20th century part of the Russian Empire, increasing influence of Art Deco style, even in Kuldīga. and 21st century, first independence of Latvia. On the screen you can see the first map, what we have from Kuldīga town, which is dated back to the 1797, and which is the last years of duchy. To explain you the development phases of our town, I tried to put those in one map, which demonstrates you can orientate it from the Venta River and Alekšu River. So the Venta River is here, and the Alekšu River is here, and then you can orientate best. So the first stage is Kuldīga in the 11th century. Kalnamiests. We will later see it outside during tour. The phase 2, the development of the castle territory east of the existing village in the 13th century. The phase 3, the expansion of the Kuldīga to the north of Alekšu River in the 16th century. The phase 4, the western expansion of Kuldīga in the 17th century. The phase 5, the expansion of the Kuldīga on the outskirts of the town in direction of surrounding towns in the 18th century. And the phase 6, which is the first phase where development started in the other riverbank of Venta, is the expansion of Kuldīga in the beginning of the 20th century. This is a very, very important stage, the expansion of Kuldīga in the 30s and 50s, and you can see the lot of development happened at that time. And the Kuldīga is very happy that the hugest development areas are not in the center, in historical center, but around the center. And the most development phase, which is important if we speak how and why Kuldīga has preserved in such a good condition till nowadays, is the expansion of Kuldīga after Second World War in 60s and 80s. And those development areas we have here, the block buildings, and we have here around the historical center. And this is the luckiest thing which helped for Kuldīga to develop, because to preserve, because already in 1969, Kuldīga became an urban planning monument, yes. So this slide I would like to read carefully together with you. Of course, this presentation I can send you afterwards, but these are the most important sentences with statement of our OUV. So Kuldīga is exceptionally well-preserved example of a traditional urban settlement at the confluence of the river Venta and the smaller Alekšu River stream. The beginning of Kuldīga, which was called Goldingen at that time, dated back to the 13th century. The river's intersection is a defining element of the town's structure, contributing to its scenic character. The medieval area of Kalnamiests, from 11th century, you remember, located on a hill, is clearly distinguishable in the townscape given its overall shape till now. A significant part of Kuldīga's history and development is linked to the Duchy of Kurland and Semigalia, which governed a significant part of the Baltics between 1561 and 1795. The town was the primary residence and administrative center of the Duchy's first ruler, and maintained an important role afterwards. As a result, the town developed into a prosperous trading hub. The international orientation of the duchies led to the rising number of foreign merchants and craftsmen settling in Kuldīga, who left their mark on the architectural language and building decorations of the region. The town structure has largely retained the street layout which developed during the period of the duchy. The architectural influences and craftsmanship traditions introduced during the era of the duchy endured well into the 19th century. However, different laws and regulations aimed at the fire safety led to the progressive replacement of the fire hazardous roof materials, wood, The proportion of masonry buildings also increased, replacing traditional wooden ones. In the second half of the 19th century, the brick bridge over the Venta River was constructed, connecting Kuldīga to the east. Unlike other towns in the Baltic region, Kuldīga survived the great wars of the 20th century, largely untouched, and modern urban developments, as we saw before in the maps, were largely implemented far outside its historic center. As I already mentioned, we were inscribed under criteria 5. And about attributes. As all we know that attributes are demonstrating OUV on the place. And when we made nomination this year, we found out we put together the first map from Kuldīga with existing situation, and we found out that almost 100% of street networks are on the place, squares, water bodies are still there, Alekša River, Pond, and Venta. Water crossings like Venta, Rapid, and bridges across the Venta, across Alekša also are there. Landscape, green areas, and buildings marked in the red and their parts. But based on the statement of OUV and the documentation of attributes of the UNESCO World Heritage Property, it was jointly assessed how the existing attributes can best be clustered to provide the effective management and monitoring. And our work continued with this activity, which has based on the attribute groups mentioned in the nomination file, as well as the results of the first stage of 2023 Heritage Impact Assessment for the visitors infrastructure in Pārventes Park. As a result, the central value concepts of the World Heritage Property were grouped into the following 4 attributes group: landscape settings, urban layout, architecture and building fabric, and craftsmanship. The first group, only to show you and demonstrate this group, which includes attributes that illustrate the landscape setting that enabled the development of the old town of Kuldīga. I will mention only some of them and go quickly through them. Venta Valley, confluence of Alekša and Venta, Venta Rumba waterfall, town setting, view corridors from pathway of a nature walkway north of the property, view corridor from the riverbank onto the confluence of Venta and Alekša. View corridor from Mārtiņsala, view corridors from the center of Brick Bridge, view corridor from the Kuldīga Regional Museum, and then we grouped according to significance and high significance those attributes. Then I will mention this is the overview of attributes, existing ones in the green color, and potential ones, which are marked in lighter green color. So what I mean with potential ones, it is accordingly to the extension of the time frame which was recommended by ICOMOS experts. The second group is attribute urban layout, which includes attributes that illustrates the urban development and dimensions of the old town of Kuldīga, including landscape elements that influenced this development. As you already saw before, confluence of Alekša stream and Venta River, Venta Rumba waterfall, street layout, public spaces, of course town silhouette. And again, we graduated them high significance and potential significance. Street layout of the Russian Empire with the buffer zone is with potential significance, and now we need to understand how to continue with those potential attributes. And also a plot layout with significance, and this is the overview of urban layout attributes. The third group is architecture and building fabric, which includes attributes that illustrate the different development stages of the traditional Baltic architecture mentioned in the statement of OUV, include the different international influences. So architecture and building fabric of ducal times, architecture and building fabric of the Russian Empire, of Latvia's first independence, building materials representative of social and economical changes based on the international relations and tradings, clay tile roofscape, view corridors around the Liepāja Street, view corridors across Catholic Church, and also grading them. And with potential significance, we have dwellings and auxiliary buildings of the ducal era in the buffer zone. I will explain you later why I point out those potential significance attributes. Yes, only to understand the wider view. And then the first group we have, craftsmanship. Includes attributes that illustrate the influence foreign craftsmen had on the building details in Kuldīga, as well as on the craftsmanship traditions until this day. And there we would like to point out doors, canopies, porches, windows, window boards, rain gutters, water waves, and of course the other details. But we have original and authentic here. And the overview of all attribute groups we have here, and you can see that part of them are in the property at the moment, and part of them are in the buffer zone at the moment, if we expand the time frame as we were suggested. And now we need to understand how to continue with this. Few words about the management. Why and how we are so lucky that we have all those values here. So in municipal level, authority is responsible for cultural and natural heritage protection. When somebody asks me how many you work on this management of this cultural site, then I always say everybody. So there is nobody who doesn't work with that, because it's not just me as a town chief architect or site manager. It's not colleagues from Restoration Center. It's in our everyday life. And we made all those management systems and everyday life that we always need to go through our old town and to feel this and to work with this in everyday. So Kuldīga Municipality Council, in different ways, in commissions, in structures, in our municipal companies, we all work together to protect and develop our heritage place. The way to the World Heritage list, it was from, I'm sure that you don't knew this before, it was from 1997, so you can imagine almost 30 years. Kuldīga has this idea that this is a very special place. When Latvia ratified the Convention on the Protection of World Cultural and Natural Heritage, then it was clear Kuldīga must be in this list. But to get all those transformations when we get this independency, so you can imagine only 30 years ago in Kuldīga, we started to identify ourselves with heritage. We started to really understand that we need to protect the heritage. And then, yes, you can see the follow-up steps, what we had till now. How we do this? Heritage protection in the old town of Kuldīga with the planning documents. We have protection zones. We have urban planning monuments in 2 levels, state level and national level. We have local plan with very strict building regulations if we speak about protection. If we speak about heritage preservation in planning and regulatory framework, we have a very wide and good management plan, really focused on the different issues which are especially important in Kuldīga case. In Baltic case, because this post-Soviet situation led us that we need to work with attitude. I would say social crisis in attitude, which already Rimans mentioned in his speech before. And how we started to develop this heritage place. Why I say develop this heritage place? Because in previous planning documents after Second World War, it was mentioned to rebuild Kuldīga, to make it modern, to make all with asphalt, to demolish the historical buildings in bad condition, but you see are still now we have in not bad condition, but this understanding was like that. And then we started to develop with concepts. For example, one concept is concept of the streets and squares of the old town of Kuldīga, which all were replaced with asphalt. And, but the original stone, cobblestone, round cobblestone was under the asphalt, and we understood that we need to research. The first stage was research, the existing situation, the old photos, digging the holes to understand how deep are historical cobblestones. The second phase was make sketches and discuss with public. Are you ready to live in historical environment like it was in the beginning of 20th century when they started to pave Kuldīga streets? And the third phase was to make drawings for every Kuldīga street, and now I will explain you later in the tour, now you can see the common result, not unified, but common result of this huge concept works. We don't think about this street separately, but conceptually about things. And also about other things. For example, about accessibility. These are concepts, these are researches on which we base our next steps, how we understand that there are people with special needs, and there are places with special needs, and how we make those compromises. And every of those concepts we discuss in public discussions. These are not very easy days, I would say, when we have those public discussions, but it's very important because we need to change the attitude, the mindset, and to understand based on our values. For example, one question, is this really Kuldīga atmosphere if we see flowers or plants like these? And the answer is clearly no. This is more like some little bit maybe German, little bit maybe Austrian town. And these pictures are from 10 years ago. And now we understood that we need also the plants concept, and we flowers, plants, trees, and we research also this topic. And outside you will see the traditional Kuldīga flowers and plants and greeneries. Okay, and of course development of green and blue areas, management strategy and implementation, as already was mentioned before, the nature is here. We have urban planning monument, we have a World Heritage Site, but we have also Natura 2000 right next to this area. We have waterfall as geomorphological object, and how to live in all those values all together. It's very easy. We have even Blue Flag Beach in our World Heritage Site and Natura 2000 territory, because in Kuldīga we make everything very small, very ordinary. As we usually say, it's a small town. We don't need very specific things. We need ordinary, typical, traditional things here. And that's how we develop our town. Of course, all the communications are important for modern, normal, everyday life. And we started with water pipes, sewage system, rainwater drainage, heating system, and of course lighting, which is also one of atmosphere's element, which is light, warm light. So when we started to dig our streets, we needed to make all those communications. They were not in Kuldīga. And the character of the old town is made up of the more than 400 historical buildings, wooden historical buildings. And here you can see the restoration works, which are made, I usually say not restoration works. These are more like maintenance works. We took Scandinavian approach. Don't change if you cannot change, and just maintain. And this is what we learn to our inhabitants, what we learn ourselves, that if you can maintain those building parts yourselves, then it's the best way, because you yourselves, it means inhabitants themselves and the house owners. Because it was the situation in Latvia, we don't have restorers, we don't have enough not even certified restorers to restore 700 buildings after the Soviet period, which was mentioned to demolish them. And that's why we changed this attitude that every house owner, yes, some minutes still, and inhabitants can do the works themselves with our restorers, consultants supervising them. And this is how we manage the processes now. For example, to change the attitude, it was very important for the people who lived in this house. We will visit it yes, during the tour. It was very hard to explain that, okay, churches is historical value, museums, castles, palaces, but this house, what do you mean? I lived there, I was born there, I don't have even toilet maybe in this house. What do you mean by heritage, by world heritage? But now, after 20 years, it's very easy to speak and to understand, and the people in Kuldīga are really proud with their houses and heritage objects. Only a few words about the development of object ideas, concepts, and details. Adaptive reuse is what we do here, because there we have quite a lot of public buildings, also residential, which are in different kind of conditions, and then we need a new function. For example, for sports school, we even decided to build the swimming pool, modern swimming pool in historical center. I will show you later. You cannot imagine from outside that this is a normal swimming pool in historical center. In the synagogue, we adapted it as a library. In the dwelling house down in the picture, we adapted it as a restoration center. And when we adapt the buildings, it's very important for us to preserve the code. We usually say, if the code for the building is dwelling house or residential house, then it must stay as in this code. Even the function is another one, so we don't change the code of the building. About the restoration center, I will tell you later, but this is one of the key aspects, how we preserve buildings. Because the restoration center with its people help in communication, in supporting, in financial assistance for inhabitants, for house owners, and in learning how to maintain windows. So everybody can take their, many of you already heard this in my previous presentations, everybody can take their window frame and go to the restoration center, and our colleagues will help them to maintain the window. And yes, I have 2 minutes, and I have only a few slides. This one, I wanted to understand that we have really scientific approach for preservation of the town. We have researchers, scientific researchers, we have heritage protection, we have education and community involvement, and building an image, which is also very important for the locals to understand our values. So researchers in different levels. So we are learning ourselves also very a lot how to preserve windows, how to make all the works as a craft people are doing. Traditional construction and details of Kuldīga in freehand sketches. This is the way how we communicate with inhabitants. Building regulations in sketches we made. So it's very easy to understand them. Okay, co-financing programs are also a very important topic, but I will explain you later outside in the tour how many of houses we co-finance, and that we don't co-finance like a global restoration of the house, but really maintenance works and technical stabilization works for the house. And in the end, the living old town is our goal. Not just a place to visit, not just a place to be happy, but to live in with families, with children. And we always say it's an easy way to live in Kuldīga. It's slow restoration, slow mood, slow food, slow everyday life. And guiders, can you please help me to move to the next slide? Yes. And the last question for us is how to preserve those spiritual things, I would say. The atmosphere, the spirit of the place, the functions. Of course, we understand how to preserve the attributes. Also, we understand how to preserve the landscape protection zone, the wider setting based on the viewshed analysis. How to preserve intangible heritage-related craftsman traditions, researches, and etc. So our answer is that we need a special law, the special law which helps just to preserve those Kuldīga values, because for the other towns and cities, it's not so important to preserve, for example, authenticity in spirit of the place or function. But for Kuldīga as a World Heritage Site, it is very important. So this was my very short presentation, why, how we get this World Heritage inscription. But I'm sure that you will understand it better when we will be outside in the town. And thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you very much, Jana Jakobsone. This was really detailed description about Kuldīga, its development, history, values, and everything good, or maybe something a little bit bad we have here. But the most of things we have here are very, very good. I would like to invite you, the next speaker, for the introduction to the symposium program. And its heritage and urban resilience to climate threats, the statistical view. And it will be told us by Danuta Klose-Kozlovska. She's the president of the subcommittee Central and Eastern Europe of CIVVIH. She's professor, urban planner, urban historian, conservator, researcher in the Department of Architecture, Architectural Heritage and Art at the Faculty of Architecture in Warsaw University of Technology. Warm welcome.
Thank you for such presentation, but first of all, I have to thanks. No, it's okay. I want to say thank you for our keynote speakers, because it was excellent presentation of Kuldīga values. So thank you very much. But of course, it's also a great pleasure and also honor for me to welcome at the annual meeting of the Scientific Committee of ICOMOS. But I am particularly pleased that it is being held in Latvia as the third scientific meeting organized by the CIVVIH subcommittee on urban heritage for Central and Eastern Europe. Let me just remind you that the first meeting was held in Český Krumlov in Czech Republic, the second in Malbork Castle in Poland, and now the third one in Kuldīga in Latvia. All places are inscribed on the UNESCO World Heritage List, and I would like to express my sincere gratitude to ICOMOS Latvia and our member, Jana, for their organizational efforts. Thank you, Jana. Thank you, ICOMOS Latvia. So now I suppose that we should transform a little bit our scenography, because normally we are sitting here. I am not sure if the technical equipment will good for me. So normally we are sitting. Yes, we would like to sit in front of computer, and to do it by. I want to do it by myself. So which one is under the function? This one, but not this. Yes, but you have to. Sorry. Is it okay?
No, you can.
No. It's okay. Oh.
It's only
Where's my present?
Yeah.
So why I have to use it?
Yeah.
Not very comfortable, because some of it I have to read to be in time, because we have strictly prepared program.
Okay.
So, we are meeting this time to discuss a topic that most engages us, many specialists and many people around the world. It concerns global climate change and its impact on the cultural heritage and environment, including our lives in historical urban landscape and historic buildings. We are particularly interested in how cities are dealing today with this problem, whether they are resilient to climate change, whether they have implemented local strategies, or whether they have developed their own responses to mitigate the efforts of unpredictable threats. Although this issue affects all cities around the world, I will focus it on the cities inscribed into the UNESCO World Heritage List, and it's as they characterize the outstanding universal values, and Kuldīga and its wooden houses, perceived as an outstanding universal values of the city structure, was, as we know, inscribed into the list in 2024. Hence, this is one of the reasons why Kuldīga was chosen as the venue of the civic meeting. As an introduction to symposium program, I try to use this, okay? To symposium program on cultural heritage and the resilience of cities to climate change and unpredictable disaster, I will start with a statistical approach based, okay, thank you very much, based on the UNESCO and ICOMOS research from 2020. And how, when we ask, if we ask how does climate change affects the world, we don't doubt that since the 1960s, as you see, we have been witnessing a clear acceleration of one, global warming, a temperature rises all over the world. Secondly, different damages caused by weather changes, especially global warming, as I said, and different threats on the sea level rise. Consequently, the answer to the question, how does climate change affect the social and natural environment, is quite simple. we are already experiencing all of those phenomena mentioned. The impact of climate change is becoming increasingly severe, and the consequences of are becoming increasingly serious. So we need to find ways how to mitigate them and to build more inclusive. Looking at the regional impact of, so it is my question, of course. Looking at the regional impact of the climate change on World Heritage Site, in a broader global context, we can see that according to a 2022 scientific research for UNESCO and ICOMOS, as many as 24% of World Heritage Sites in Europe have been affected by climate change. So the climate change, global warming, is no longer a distant threat. It is a present-day reality, a threat to the historical values of urban spaces and the non-renewable exceptional values of cities, but also, above all, to their inhabitants. Our concern is justified, as most cities and places of the universal values are located in Europe. Their concentration is clearly visible on the map. Equally important, as much as one and of cultural heritage, that means 70% of World Heritage Sites are located in urban areas, making them vulnerable to the ongoing pressure of urbanization, caused by climate change, of course. Many of them, about 1 of 3, the World Heritage cities, it's a big amount, are located in coastal areas and river banks, which makes them increasingly at risk from coastal hazards due to the sea level rise. Although, as we know, cities within continents also experience different threats. That is marked on the map with red dots. I am not sure if it was visible good, but what is also important, 60% of the in the Mediterranean region have already reported risks such as coastal flooding and erosion resulting from the sea level rise. A consequence of global warming is the melting the glaciers. 1/3 area of World Heritage natural sites will disappear by 2050, including those on Mount Kilimanjaro. It's also worth to note that every 1 degree Celsius increase in temperature could double the number of living species exposed to dangerous climate conditions. But during the 20th century, the Baltic Sea level rose by 20 centimeters. Previously, the average rate of rise was 3-4 millimeters per year, but this century it would increase by 60 to 110 centimeters, threatening lowland areas. In Poland, for example, the Żuławy region in the Wistulas Delta will be flooded, but this threat will also affect cities at the river mouth, such as Gdańsk as well as Riga. Global warming in Poland has led to investments in climate resilience infrastructure. Risk management plans are being developed. A program of education has been introduced in schools and among local communities. Local governments are encouraged to take measures to mitigate so-called heat islands by implementing blue-green infrastructure in the public spaces of cities, which is crucial for counteracting the effect of global warming. But also, climate change are changing the way we live because of permanent loss of land and homes at coastal areas, for example, loss of culture identity, unplanned urban uncovering, pressure of migration. We already have numerous publications and examples of good practices of risk management at the local level, which we will also see during our symposium. That will be a very interesting lesson for all of us. For the conclusion, historic towns, cities, and UNESCO World Heritage Sites face increasing risk of losing their unique values due to the climate change. The current protection methods are often insufficient in order to respond in time to the impacts of unpredictable threats. Risk management should integrate urban planning with cultural heritage protection and climate change research, using spatial analysis of the historic urban landscape to develop practical resilience strategies at the local level and taking into account, first of all, residents' concerns and their participation. Local climate dialogues can shape national climate action, integrating it into urban development. It's, for example, the ICLEI, Local Governments for Sustainability model, addressing challenges through local actions with more than 85 local governments and civil society organizations registering to host town hall COPs across more than 40 countries. So far, 12 town hall COPs have taken place across diverse geographies, showing strong global interest in locally led climate discussions. So local climate dialogues can also shape national climate action, what is very important for us. Although the main subject of our symposium is the resilience of cities to the threats of climate change, the first day of our meeting will be devoted to the protection of saving wooden architecture, disappearing crafts, and living in wooden buildings. Section A titled Living in Wooden Heritage, Reviewing Craftsmanship, will feature 3 presentations led by Ilana Bula, and me. So after the presentation, so please, Ilana, take a seat near. I pleased about 1 chair more. No. Oh, 1 chair more. Normally we are sitting here because the presenter should be sit here. Yes. And now we have 3 presentations. Hogne Langseth, Ravinis, Austins, and Christian Martin. So the presentation of them will be
introduced by me.
Yes, by
Inara. Yes.
Inara, sorry. And after that, we will come to the question.
Okay. Wooden vernacular architecture. Do we need to preserve? How to speak with object owners? And is there really good craftsmanship to preserve? So, thriving wooden towns of Norway. Hognelandset, the floor is yours.
Hogne?
No.
No, we have to finish this.
We
have to, yes, we have, okay, sorry.
I have a written presentation. I can use this one. I have a written presentation I was prepared to read, which takes exactly 15 minutes. We're running late. I think maybe I should just simplify things and talk based on the pictures.
Yeah. Yes, please.
But,
oops. But he would like to stay.
I'll just keep it a bit shorter than and simpler than I first expected to. And then if somebody wants the entire written presentation, they can get it afterwards. No, let's see.
No, because we have to close this presentation and to, yes, to...
Yeah, but, okay.
I don't know where it is.
You can sit here.
Yeah, I sent it in.
No, we have to close it now.
Oh, there it is. Okay. Oh, no, that's not it.
No.
Might be,
Yes.
Thriving and we can see this. Number 4.
Number 4?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. I'll try to see. There?
I'm sorry?
Okay.
You can speak this.
Speak in that one?
If you sit.
Okay, thank you. This is where we come from. Throughout history, wood has been the cheapest and most abundant local material in Norway for buildings as well as boats and other constructions. Buildings of brick and stone had a higher status due to the cost, solidity, and international flair. Still, up to the 20th century, vernacular wooden architecture dominated. The technology was common within the population, also in the village and towns. Virtually everyone was able to build his own house with a little help from the local community. So, a very resilient community based on that. The wooden architecture was seen as so typically Norwegian that when the country regained self-rule in the 19th century, the old wooden architecture you found in remote valleys was idolized as cornerstones of national identity. In the 20th century, though, modern technology radically altered wooden architecture as well as the rest of society, and the older technology fell out of style. The remaining old clusters, particularly in the cities, were often inhabited by poorer people who didn't have the resources to upgrade to modern amenities. You got a social stigma, and many clusters of old wooden houses were seen as slums, unfit for human habitation. Post-war urban planning had only one solution for elements not fit for a future society built on the prevailing functionalist ideas, and many clusters were therefore razed to make way for modern apartment buildings and commercial developments. The 20th century also brought a consumer economy based on new production rather than maintenance and repairs. And with an industrialized market society with an abundance of cheap, ready-made products you could easily buy, new products often unsuitable for older wooden buildings, we also saw these wooden clusters threatened in a way that both reduced the lifespan of older materials and constructions and robbed the buildings of architectural and cultural heritage value. So the sustainability and the resilience went down. Something has happened here with the text, but okay. In the 1970s, the turning point came with both an outcry among radicalized youths occupying houses that were to be demolished and a joint Nordic project called Wooden Towns of the Nordic Countries. The project highlighted and defined the dense wooden towns and vernacular wooden architecture as cultural heritage of national importance, as well as a responsibility for the countries to safeguard in an international perspective. I can here mention that this project in 2016 inspired a group of these cities to establish a new network that has arranged a line of conferences dealing with current challenges as historic wooden towns. In the 1970s, Norway followed up with our three first World Heritage sites being wooden architecture. The warehouse assembly in Bryggen in Bergen, the medieval stave church at Urnes, both inscribed in 1978, and the mining town of Røros in 1980. Since then, there has been a wide range of focus areas aimed at both the older wooden towns and urban clusters as such, and wooden vernacular architecture in general, as you can see here. They are all important in order to raise awareness and pride, reduce damage, make them attractive for habitation and use, and thereby also economically viable. All these are important in order to strengthen the community's resilience when tested, either to natural or man-made disasters, or more, call it slow-moving disasters, being economic or technical. Of course, wooden architecture has a problem with fire. So fire protection has been one of the key issues. Up until the beginning of the 20th century, most all wooden towns and villages were built very dense without any effective fire protection measures. Therefore, most cities faced devastating fires with irregular intervals, and the fire hazard was one of the first issues the cultural heritage authorities had to address in order to preserve wooden towns and villages. In early years, the programs were mostly targeting individual buildings of particular value, while the general vernacular building stock was left to the municipalities. But around 2010, the National Directorate of Cultural Heritage initiated an inventory of all wooden clusters of cultural heritage importance in the country and came up with more than 200. Based on previous projects, the Directorate set up a project aimed at both house owners and municipalities, guiding them in making plans for fire prevention and response, how to install common fire detection and alarm systems, and common sprinkler systems to extinguish fires. Grants were also made available. Then on to the central point of this session. There has been an extensive and long-term effort from the public cultural heritage sector to guide and help owners, practitioners, and producers alike on good maintenance as well as adapted upgrades. Much due to this work, the social stigma that could be found earlier is long gone, and sales prices show that the old wooden houses and urban clusters have become very popular. Educating a stable workforce of craftsmen in traditional skills and materials have been crucial elements to support this goal and has and has come even more into focus in later years as some skills have almost died out. Therefore, the Norwegian Directorate for Cultural Heritage in 1984 initiated the International Course on Wood Conservation Technology and has been running it since then as a biannual course in cooperation with ICOMOS and the Norwegian University of Science and Technology. It's a course spanning 6 to 8 weeks aimed towards mid-career professionals, both conservators, architects, engineers, and craftsmen, and has practical cross-disciplinary approach. By now, over 500 participants from more than 80 countries have attended. Still, on a domestic level, the experienced craftsmen in traditional skills were few and far between. The SHED project that started in Røros in 1995 was probably one of the first to aim specifically at educating craftsmen in traditional skills. Museums around the country with a large old building stock had their own maintenance department with skilled craftsmen, and some started copying this activity, giving people within their region advice and training on maintenance. In Akershus, the neighboring county to Oslo, a center for restoration and maintenance of old buildings was started in 2006 as a pilot project by the Norwegian Directorate for Cultural Heritage, the Federation of Norwegian Construction Industries, and the Norwegian Crafts Institute, hiring a carpenter with extensive experience in the field. They also connected with the local museum and a local NGO, and the activity was aimed at both educating and training house owners and professionals. As I prepared this presentation, I learned that this project on an early stage got in touch with Kuldīga and have been networking with your group of craftsmen ever since. The pilot was so successful that regional political bodies and regional museums around the country has initiated similar building conservation centers, giving advice and holding practical courses for property owners and craftsmen. Also, Fortidsminneforeningen, a national cultural heritage NGO, is doing the same. The heritage authorities, like my office in Oslo, where I work, are complementing this practical work by producing written information pamphlets and guides with advice on traditional materials and construction, as we have done for many years. The most publicized theme has been how to maintain, repair, and upgrade old windows. We also cooperate with research institutes to test materials and constructions to document their performance compared to modern solutions and classifications. It's reported that a focus on added knowledge has given a new sense of pride and appreciation on the vernacular heritage among the practitioners involved, but also among homeowners. To learn how to maintain and repair your own house has become popular and brought a new pride and appreciation of your own heritage. Added knowledge is followed up with economic support to repair rather than to copy with new products, as I will come back to. An integrated part of both the heritage authorities and building conservation centers' work is to advise owners how to upgrade their buildings in a way that is both functional, technically sound, and preserve cultural heritage values. This includes improving energy efficiency and climate adaptation. In a time and age where ecological sustainability has come to the forefront, to make sure that your investments in materials and constructions last as long as possible serves more than just cultural heritage. A good home is a home to be proud of and something you'd want to take care of. So to be able to find solutions to inhabitants' needs and aspirations helps build social sustainability and resilience when tested. When it comes to adaptive reuse, we find that many smaller buildings can be made into residential space or be taken over by a smaller business without too many exemptions from modern regulations. Larger buildings can be more problematic. And all the warehouses that you see down on the left from Trondheim with low ceilings and little daylight are prime examples of these. Still, both the cities of Trondheim, Bergen, and other cities that have quite a few of these have managed to convert quite a few to either office space, restaurants, or apartments. New adaptive architecture with respect for local character and setting can strengthen social and economic sustainability by introducing functions and qualities that the local community lack and want. With adaptive constructions what adaptive constructions are when it comes to architecture is still debated and could be a presentation all on its own. I will leave that for another year though and move on to how this all connects to city planning. Traditionally, the old wooden town had a tight mix of residential space, commercial activity, and production, based on family-owned businesses or workshops where the owner typically both lived, produced his goods, and sold them. Through the 20th century, we saw much of this production and commercial activity move out to separate and much larger entities. Retail was first taken over by grocery stores, then self-service supermarkets, and lastly, car-based shopping centers and malls. We can dislike it, but we cannot reverse the economic gravity. 2 minutes. The old wooden towns with their finely segmented property structures, small houses and limited space for parking, lost out in the competition and fell into underutilized and partially dilapidated states. As we over the years have worked to revitalize the wooden clusters in towns, some clusters have been accepted as mostly residential and old residential areas. But many old production spaces, warehouses, and shops have also been converted for modern service industry, with coffee shops, restaurants, hairdressers, smaller consultancy firms. For that to happen, you need people to come in, and the better managed towns have managed to keep the hubs of public transportation close to these historic centers, or also been able to integrate a few new commercial centers, cultural center, university, or other attractions within walking distance of the old cluster. I think I'll just move on. Legal protection. In accordance to Norwegian law, a house must be protected under the Cultural Heritage Act or regulated for preservation under the Planning and Building Act for the municipality to have the power to refuse demolition or significant alteration. Mainly, this is a municipal task, and there's a terrible backlog all around the country, even in Oslo. What we've experienced, though, is that local awareness, pride, and sense of community are more important factors for preservation and community resilience than legal protection. Here you see one of the protected clusters we got in Oslo, but the similar ones that are not legally protected are just as well or even better preserved. And lastly, as for many things, carrot works better than a stick. For many years now, there's therefore been grants, mainly for private owners, to motivate them to do the right thing. It's not by far a full coverage of the cost, but mostly seed money to make some of the extra cost for work that is not straight off the mill. The national government gives grants to heritage protected under the Cultural Heritage Act. I don't think I'll need to go into numbers here. If somebody wants them, you can get them. There's a separate grant for Norwegian old World Heritage Sites, and a separate also for fire protection of wooden clusters, urban wooden clusters. We also have a National Cultural Heritage Fund set up by the government that gives quite a bit of money every year. In addition, we have regional bodies and municipalities that have grants for cultural heritage, like we do in Oslo. The funds are popular, and the total amount in the applications are many times higher than the grants given. The enormous amount of private investments that these grants trigger has proven to be our best sales pitch for the next year's budget. regardless of political affiliation. So even among the politicians, they get approved. With these measures, we hope that the Norwegian wooden towns will be thriving and resilient in many years to come. Thank you.
Thank you. I would ask kindly not to leave, but just sit in front of us. So, if somebody would ask to heritage experts, it is very hard to maintain the wooden house, we would answer no, but maybe it is useful to get from the heritage expert to wooden house owner. So I would welcome Raivis Austriņš with the presentation Leave, Can't Stay Together. Is the heritage a burden? Please, Raivis.
Yeah. Almost 20 years ago, I graduated from the Latvian Academy of Art. Early on, I realized that I didn't have the skills needed to become a good art historian, and that the academic environment wasn't something I was truly passionate about. While many of my course mates continued their studies in master's and later PhD programs, I chose a different path. I moved to a small town and I began learning traditional log house construction, studying alongside young people at the vocational school. While I was still at vocational school, I started my professional journey as an apprentice at a Latvian company that at the time was rich in experience and craftsmanship. As my skill developed, I gradually combined my craft with technology. I turned my attention to various computer-aided design programs, and for the past 10 years, significant part of my work has been done at the computer, providing construction companies and craftsmen with precise documentation for wooden structure projects. Currently, alongside my professional work, I am pursuing my master's degree at the Latvian Academy of Culture. My research focuses on the knowledge and skill of carpenters. The preservation of wooden-built cultural heritage faces, from my point of view, three major challenges. First, there is a severe shortage of skilled craftsmen and craft businesses able to work with heritage buildings. The demand for conservation far exceeds current capacity. Secondly, clear and measurable quality criteria in craftsmanship are lacking, especially where different trades overlap. And thirdly, there are different interpretations of what craft means in heritage preservation, whether it should be seen primarily as a process or as the finished objects. Today, I wish I could talk about success stories, the revival of crafts, and good examples that inspire us all. But instead, I would like to use this platform to draw attention to the practical challenges faced every day by the owners of historical buildings. My journey of owning a historical building started after many years of being involved in craftsmanship, first professionally, then academically. I had always tried to expand my knowledge beyond Latvia, working with craftsmen and organizations in Scandinavia, Spain, Russia, and other countries. These experiences, along with leading and participating in conservation masterclasses in Latvia, gave me confidence in my skills and understanding of heritage work. After one of masterclasses, I came across a listing for a wooden house in Talsi, a town with one of Latvia's most beautiful cultural landscapes. On a sunny September day in 2023, I went to see it. But what I saw was daunting. The house had been uninhabited for 3 years since a fire, and the damage was extensive. Even with all my experience, I was scared. But that fear didn't stop me. 6 months later, after buying out the shares of 4 co-owners, I become the owner of a nearly 300 square meter house, and with it the opportunity to test my knowledge, skills, and patience probably for next decade. To understand what I faced, it helps to look closely at the house itself. The wood house was built around 1863 as a log structure. Initially, only the first floor was habitable. By the end of the 19th century, the second floor living space was added. The roof likely had been wooden shingles, replaced later with tiles, and eventually with tin in the early 20th century, due to structural limits. From the mid-20th century until the fire, the house was divided in 4 apartments. Over time, original windows were replaced with plastic ones, walls were insulated with unsuitable materials, and modern, cheap finishes were added. Electrical wiring, stoves, and floors were modified independently by each apartment, including a 10 centimeters concrete layer poured over one wooden floor. As you probably can imagine, the conservation of historical building is full of difficulties to overcome, or in many cases, challenges you simply have to learn to live with. In my case, restoring the house has proven to be a complex, multi-layered process, continuing with collapsed ceiling beams, burned rafters, finally moving on the top the roof, window replacements, and finishing work. Several preparatory steps are required. The building must first undergo a technical inspection, microbiological analysis, and architectural and artistic research. Only after these studies can work continue under the guidance of an architect, engineer, and designers for water, heating, and electrical systems. In the building, if the building is on the heritage list, every solution, not all, every, but a lot of solutions must be coordinated with the National Heritage Board. Additionally, permits and approvals are needed from multiple municipal institutions, neighbor property owners, and surrounding engineer networks. In my case, this involves coordination with around 10 different state, municipal, and private organizations. Often institutions within the same municipality do not communicate efficiently with one another, leaving the property owner responsible not only for the conservation work, but also for managing relationship and facilitating communication between these entities. Why do I emphasize this? Historical center of Talsi is small, and the number of residents is modest, yet the complexity of administrative technical requirements for restoring a historical building is significant. For an owner like me, with experience and resources, these challenges are manageable, but for owners without such skills and knowledge, these situations are far more difficult. The result is that much of shared cultural heritage is left to deteriorate. And then, that's not the whole story. I needed a place to live while renovating the house. Since I'm not from Talsi, so I bought an apartment in a neighboring building, you can see on the screen. And earlier this year, my friends bought another apartment in the same building. Purchasing a unit in a neighboring building showed me just how complex owning historic properties can be. Together we now own 2 units, while 4 others remain with owners who have very different ideas about the building's future. It's also important to note that many current residents have no historical or emotional attachment to their homes. Some are newcomers and others live here there due to limited housing options or low income. These social realities add yet another layer of complexity to the preservation of our shared cultural heritage, not just in Talsi, but in many other small towns across Latvia. To conclude, based on my experience as the owner of 2 of these buildings in Talsi, I have gained several important insights. Skilled craftsmen and appropriate building materials are essential, but they alone are not enough. Complex ownership structure, limited local government support, and the lack of qualified specialists make the task even more difficult. Some heritage will inevitably be lost, which is why initiatives aimed at preventing this must be actively supported. And finally, a word of caution. Don't buy old wooden houses with a romanticized vision of cultural heritage preservation. You will quickly find yourself disappointed with yourself, with neighbors, with your local municipality, and even with your government. Most people are willing to help or answer questions, but only if it doesn't create extra difficulties for them or they already know the answers. The time and funds are always limited. That said, if you already own a historical house or plan to become an owner despite the challenges, I can promise you this. Preventing and conserving cultural heritage can become one of the most meaningful and rewarding experiences of your life. Thank you.
Thank you, Raivis. It seems that we need to cheer you up a little bit. So, wooden architectural heritage beyond the borders has similar problems. Main of them would be to whom it should be preserved and why. So maybe I could ask the next speech. Sorry. So the examples of traditional wooden houses in French Guiana, the Bonny house and the Creole house. Kristen Martin, take the floor.
It's wrong? No, this is it's wrong, yeah? Yes, wrong. The first. Christian Martin. Oh, okay. I will speak in French and slide in English. Je vais vous présenter 2 exemples de maisons traditionnelles de bois en Guyane française. Donc, la Guyane française, c'est en Amérique du Sud. Vous avez le Brésil ici, vous avez Belém à 500 km, et le Suriname de l'autre côté du fleuve Maroni. La Guyane française est, disons, urbanisée le long de la côte. Vous avez les seules routes qui existent. Là, il n'y a pas de route, c'est la forêt amazonienne. Et je vais vous parler de ces maisons que l'on trouve ici, à Papaïcheton, on trouve par là, et de ce type de maisons que l'on trouve ici à Siamari. Ici, il y a 200 km à peu près, 200 km from ocean and rural. Donc, ces petites maisons, ce sont les maisons Boni. Les Boni, c'est un peuple d'esclaves évadés dès le XVIIIe siècle, évadés des plantations de Guyane hollandaise, qui sont venus se réfugier côté français de la frontière, en Guyane française. C'est un peuple qui venaient de pays africains différents. Donc, ils ont inventé eux-mêmes un langage commun, puisqu'ils parlaient différents langages, une religion commune. Ils avaient différentes religions, mais ça reste quand même très africain, et une organisation sociale très fouillée, très complexe, pour l'organisation de leur société. Donc voilà. Jusque dans les années 70, on pouvait voir ces maisons donc, avec des toits végétales, qui étaient dans des villages très animés. Les villages sont le long du fleuve, on y vient en pirogue. Et voilà le détail de ces toits végétaux. Mais malheureusement, maintenant, ce genre de maison, il est souvent comme ça, en ruine, ou tout au moins, ce qu'il en reste, les toits végétaux ont été remplacés par des couvertures métalliques, et les villages sont à moitié abandonnés. Les habitants vont travailler sur la côte, ils reviennent de temps en temps. Donc c'est des villages un peu en déshérence, et ceux qui habitent sur place ont construit d'autres maisons un petit peu à côté, qui sont des maisons plus adaptées au mode de vie actuel. Alors les maisons Boni, elles sont toutes construites sur le même modèle, que voilà, et c'est un modèle inspiré des modèles amérindiens, car ces Noirs africains, quand ils sont partis d'Afrique, quand ils se sont évadés des plantations hollandaises, se sont retrouvés dans le milieu hostile de la forêt amazonienne, et ce sont les Amérindiens qui leur ont appris comment vivre dans la forêt. Et ce type de maison, donc de noir marron, est bien inspiré du modèle amérindien, notamment avec ce système de traverse horizontale qui est caractéristique. Une maison Boni, ça se construit comme ça. Il y a 6 poteaux, donc il y a les poteaux, sur lesquels on vient mettre 2 pannes longitudinales, sur lesquelles viennent ces fameuses traverses lobaliki, et quelque chose qui n'est pas tout à fait amérindien, mais qui a une influence, disons, coloniale, c'est cette forme de ferme sur lequel, qu'on contrevente par ces liens, et sur lequel vient un chevronnage léger, où il y a une couverture végétale par-dessus, ou maintenant des tôles métalliques. Le plan type, donc vous avez la chambre tout à fait à l'arrière, une pièce à vivre sur l'avant, avec une porte, et un porche assez assez large pour se protéger de la pluie. C'est un climat équatorial où il y a beaucoup de pluie. Les façades, donc la fameuse traverse, oblige à avoir une porte basse, à peu près à cette hauteur, ce qui est le gros handicap pour les habitants. Et vous avez donc ce fronton qui est particulièrement travaillé et qui donne l'identité à la maison. Voilà ces types de frontons peints. Ces motifs, donc, c'est ce qu'on appelle l'art tembé. L'art tembé est propre au noir marron de Guyane. Toutes ces entrelacs de formes colorées sont symboliques. Il y a à peu près 40 à 50 motifs qui évoquent chacun un concept. Donc, c'est un peu ésotérique, hein, mais un noir-marron averti peut trouver un message dans ces décorations. Le copeau, et ça s'appelle le copeau traditionnel, est largement ventilé, ce qui permet à la maison d'être plus vivable, malgré le toit métallique qui n'est pas favorable à un bon confort. Voilà à l'intérieur. Ça, c'est la séparation entre la première pièce et la deuxième. Les détails des portes. Donc, ces maisons, elles servent surtout, enfin, pour beaucoup, les familles reviennent dans la maison, c'est la maison familiale, où donc ils stockent des choses utilitaires pour pouvoir vivre quand ils viennent une fois par mois ou plus. Cette maison est habitée par une dame qui avait à peu près 70 ans. Sa maison était comme ça. Il fallait qu'elle se penche un peu pour entrer chez elle. C'est le gros problème de ces maisons. Donc elle a coupé la traverse pour faire une porte plus haute, pour ne pas avoir à se pencher pour entrer dans sa maison, mais de ce fait, elle a un peu détruit le tympan qui servait de ventilation à la maison. Elle a toutefois conservé ici cet élément donc de tembé qui souvent dans ces maisons se passe de génération en génération. Quand on reconstruit la maison, on garde quelque chose des maisons d'avant, quoi. C'est le patrimoine familial, la mémoire. Donc ce genre de tembé doit dater du 19e siècle et a été réemployé sûrement plusieurs fois depuis. Voilà d'autres types donc, de maisons, toujours pour voir la décoration. Donc, je vous ai parlé des pièces de contreventement. Certaines dépassent, comme ici, on le voit, donc avec une décoration. Ça doit avoir une signification, mais je ne la connais pas et je n'ai pas réussi à la voir. Dans le village, les maisons sont organisées pas vraiment suivant des rues. Il y a des cheminements, mais bon, il y a une place centrale. quand même, enfin, un lieu de réunion particulier. Là, voilà, je dis le centre parce qu'il y a un banc public, et il y a un espace central et des équipements, disons, communautaires à proximité. Donc cette maison, l'intérieur, on voit que le toit végétal a été conservé et puis les décorations. Ok. Donc, bon, un autre exemple. Vous avez les mêmes maisons qui peuvent être surélevées d'un étage, comme vous voyez. Encore un étage et toujours un també. Quelques vues du village qui s'organise plus ou moins en ruelle. Le village domine le fleuve, ce qui lui permet de bénéficier de l'air frais venant du fleuve pour ventiler les habitations. Mais voilà les maisons maintenant qui sont construites par ces personnes, et ils préfèrent ça, et notamment avec les petits chapiteaux corinthiens préfabriqués. Mais c'est quand même toujours vivant. Vous pouvez voir une poussette d'enfants à côté de la porte. Et après un décès, il y a des grandes fêtes. Ça doit être 3 semaines après un décès, quand l'esprit du mort est bien parti. On fait une grande fête pendant toute la nuit. Et il y a beaucoup de monde qui viennent faire la fête. Les équipements communautaires, donc, qui sont assez spartiates pour faire la cuisine. Des lieux de culte, le fakatiki, qui est le structure de culte familial, et puis des petits temples où on met des offrandes aux divinités. Pour ce patrimoine en déshérence, donc depuis plusieurs années, l'administration de la culture française a initié l'idée de le préserver. Donc un chantier école a été fait 2017-2020, qui a duré pendant 3 ans, avec des jeunes pour leur apprendre à maîtriser la construction traditionnelle. Le choix des bois ne pose pas de problème, parce qu'à côté du village, vous avez la forêt et vous voyez l'échelle des arbres qu'il peut y avoir. Et les bois sont choisis suivant leur qualité par rapport aux insectes, à l'humidité. Voilà le chantier avant, après. Voilà le copeau avec le monsieur qui l'a refait. Alors, il y a beaucoup à dire, parce que ce ne sont pas des restaurations qui pourraient répondre, disons, à la charte de Venise. Ce sont des reconstructions à l'identique. Voilà, les remises des diplômes aux étudiants. Deuxième type de maison, maison créole, donc sur le long de la côte. Sur l'exemple de Saint-Marie, vous avez l'océan par là-bas, et le village traditionnel, les rues du village, et des maisons bien typées aussi, qui sont quasiment toutes les mêmes, avec les structures. Donc la structure de base, vous avez 3 portiques ici, ici et ici, qui sont comme ceci, qui font la structure principale de la maison. Et avec la particularité de la maison créole, ce sont ces solives qui dépassent, qui tiennent les avant-toits qui protègent de la pluie, et à l'étage et au rez-de-chaussée. Voilà les combles, avec toujours les habitants. La ventilation se fait au-dessus des ouvertures et dans les combles. Voilà, bon, l'organisation, toujours, les pièces sont ventilées les unes après les autres. Ça, c'est un exemple de ce type de maison habitée à Cayenne, mais c'est devenu une maison musée, où on voit les équipements de la cuisine et de la toilette, disons, qui sont dans des annexes à côté de la maison. Traditionnellement, bon, il y avait des toits en bardeaux, mais qui reviennent petit à petit. Voilà, autrement, l'ossature, toujours avec chevillé, et il y avait des modèles préfabriqués, donc avec des signes d'assemblage. Et le remplissage se fait par des briques ou par du torchis sur des structures tressées.
Maybe we could
voilà.
go to conclusions slowly.
Oui, voilà, bon. Pour montrer que ces maisons sont étudiées pour être largement ventilées, et dans ce type de maison, il n'y a pas besoin de climatisation pour vivre. Et, voilà. Et ça existe. Donc, on peut...
Thank you very much. Just go to sit here. Just there we have 3 extraordinary presentations about maintaining and keeping safe the wooden heritage objects. Please feel free. Maybe you have some questions from audience. I will just start, maybe just one question, just one.
You can say that I can help him for translating English.
Okay, so maybe just translate from English to French. So, how would we be more successful on preserving wooden heritage to cheer up the owners and to help for governance and for legislative framework? Maybe you have some suggestions to where we should move on.
I think I don't need to be cheered up. Maybe my tone was a little bit sad, but actually I try to point or pay attention on the people or owners who are not professionals. And I think we need to pay more attention as professionals and the people working in the field, more to those who are not that large understanding of cultural heritage as most of us have.
Well, I agree, and say it this way: my perspective and your perspective, I agree with both. They're both there, even though we put in a lot of regulations and we wanted this and this way, we have to respect that not everybody has the same knowledge or maybe even interest, and we have to help them, both economically and practically. To go in modern society is complicated just to understand where to go, what applications you need, and so forth. The conservation centers in Norway now also have courses for homeowners or property owners to apply. How to apply, where to apply, how to get grants, how to fill out the applications for grants. And you need to be that practical. Thank you.
So, and maybe the colleague also would like to?
If I can answer in French, for me, the owner, enfin, les propriétaires dans Bonny, faut-il encore qu'ils soient sensibilisés à leur patrimoine familial pour vouloir le restaurer?
It needs to, in Bonny, the owners need still to be sensibilized to the heritage.
Et pour les maisons créoles, donc dans certains endroits, comme à Cayenne par exemple, ou à Saint-Laurent-du-Maroni, les règlements urbains protègent ce type de maison, mais dans le village que je vous ai montré, Sinamari, la municipalité est réticente à la protection de ces maisons.
Alors, in the last example of the city, there are regulations for the houses, but in the small village he showed in the first, there is still no regulation for this kind of houses.
Some questions? Still no questions? Yes, okay.
I have a question about property insurance. These are all wooden buildings that are prone to fires. And is property insurance available? Is it affordable? Are there schemes to enable that insurance?
Yes, there is an option to get your property insured, but I want to pay attention that, let's say, if you have a own house, the whole house, you can insure the house. But let's say if you live in a house like I have the second house, where we have 6 apartments, and some of those apartments are social housing which belongs to the municipality, and these are not always the most wealthiest people in the village. So I think we have to look on these things, not like only on the apartments, but how to insure the whole house.
Okay, I could just add, in Norway now...
A small question.
Pardon? Yeah, in Norway now, it's possible to get it insured, every house. We have a discussion every now and then, the price you have to pay if it is, if there is a fire, for example. Some insurance companies say that they're afraid that the cost of repairs would be greater than to build a new house. And in that case, they might charge you more than they normally would. So we are having a ongoing discussion with some of the insurance companies onto that. When it comes to buildings with many apartments, usually, well, always in Norway, you would have a board responsible for the whole house. Either it's a co-op or some other kind of organization, and they will insure the house as such. You will pay into that, and then the homeowners will only have the separate insurance for their interiors and their, yeah.
In French Guyana, this is like in France, you have assurance, but I think a little more expensive when you are a wood house. With wood.
A small question. All the presentation about the wooden heritage were very important. Very interesting. I didn't understand from your presentation, could you save the authentic wooden material after the fire?
Could you please repeat the question?
Was it clear or not? Could you save the authentic wooden material after the fire?
So, okay. So the house wasn't completely burned down. So
yes,
the fire was stopped after by firefighters. But let's say the half of the roof construction has really burned and needs to be replaced because of structural capacity. So like in my case, I need to change the half of the construction. Like the one part stays and another part where the fire was needs to be replaced. I don't know if I answered.
Okay, one more question. It goes to Reen.
As now ICOMOS Europe Group is working very much on energy efficiency, and two of the presenters are not from EU, and you are not forced to follow these directives. But would you like to say something about restoring wooden buildings and energy efficiency issues? How to solve them?
Through the EES, Norway has to apply with the EU directives too, and we're very much into energy efficiency in all older buildings, also wooden buildings, and we have all these guides already on how to what to do, how to do it. We are discussing with some of the other agencies in Norway that are heavily into changing all windows with new windows. So that's a discussion that's been going on now for years, and probably will for some years still. We are both when it comes to wooden architecture and other older buildings, we stress the bigger picture, that you shouldn't just measure the energy efficiency as of now, but see the CO2 effect when it comes to changing, for example, windows or cladding or whatever, the cost, ecological cost of producing, disposing the old materials, and you very often also end up with constructions that doesn't last as long as the old ones would. So the positive effect might not be there, even though you can measure that, well, the window or the wall or the roof has a higher classification when it comes to energy efficiency. So we're very much into it, but it's still an ongoing discussion.
So if there are no more questions, thank you a lot for our presenters. Applause for them, please. And I give a microphone and floor to Danuta, please.
A small contribution to this discussion. I would like to show you real, vital wooden houses in Warsaw. So it is a unique Jazdów wooden houses in Warsaw, capital of Poland. And no one anticipated the longevity of Jazdów wooden houses. It is the name of this village, if it is not village, settlement, which today constitute a unique enclave of comfortable living in center of the capital, nestled among the gardens, parks, and it's really very exclusive part of Warsaw. The estate was established in March 1945 for architects and engineers working on the reconstruction of Warsaw after the Second World War. So I would like to show you first in 3 minutes. It was a colony of 90 wooden houses which Soviet Union had received from Finland as a war contribution, and the area of the colony stretched from the parliament to the Ujazdów garden, also Castle Ujazdów, and was a self-sustaining ecosystem on its area were public. Oh, sorry, it's difficult to read here. So you see, it was all, they have all services inside. But what is very interesting, the life of this settlement, because you can see on the photo our architects, very known woman, which was cooperate with Le Corbusier, also on the photo, and these houses when they were transported to Poland. And now it is very nice and very cozy settlement, as you see. The people would like to game in gardening, which garden is the best, and which place is the best arranged. So it is also interesting that the wooden heritage can live very well and can live a long time. Of course, it is because of public engagement, because we can say that the poverty of post-war Poland can resist this colony without any touch. After that, they wanted to destroy it. That is why we have only 27 wooden houses on this area. But this area is a special one. I also would like to show you the plan, because I don't see it here on the first slide, but there was a plan. No. Oh, sorry. It was the plan. I can show you, because it's very interesting. It was a very rich, as we can say. I couldn't find my first slide. The first is with plan. Maybe this one? No. Yes, only this plan. Oh, what is interesting, that it is just connected with our parliament, our very prestigious street, Aleje Ujazdowskie, full of embassies, and it is surrounded by Łazienki, King's Palace and King's Gardens. Also, the first one, oh, sorry. No, the second, oh, yes, this one. Yes, so it is just a center of Warsaw, and if you will have time, please go and to visit it, because it is a parliament quarter, we can say, parliament. So it is more or less in this, sorry, this, among the Ujazdów garden, among the gardens surrounded along the Aleje Ujazdowskie with embassies, and the line, very important, which divide these two parts. One is Ujazdów axis, so it is also a very prestigious part of the center of Warsaw. And this housing area is only this one. It's preserved only this, but previously it was till the escarpment. And that's all. Thank you very much for your patience.
Thank you so much. We all have so much interesting, valuable experience to share, and so knowledgeable experience. So it's really great to hear all this. But now it's time for a short break because we are Behind the program, the break will be very, very short. 10 minutes coffee break. It's upstairs there if you go out of the hall, and it goes straight and to the left upstairs. So we will meet you back here at 12:45.